Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 412. My name is Emily Rainbow Davis. Thank you for listening to this blogcast. I'm just delighted you're here, so thank you. Today's blog is about Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince. I don't know that we do that anymore. I think he finished with that. So it's Prince. And he's gone. R.I.P. But it's about him. And I saw the movie Purple Rain, which this is really about, and a little bit about Prince. And I think that's all you really need to know. Aside from this event that I went to was at Brooklyn Bridge Park in Brooklyn. Obviously, it's got Brooklyn in the name. Although the Brooklyn Bridge isn't just in Brooklyn, but the park is in Brooklyn. And it was a super fun time. And I had some feelings about it. But just shout out to the two delightful Prince fans that I saw this movie with. Thanks to them for making space for me in that experience. So here is... I finally saw Purple Rain. When Purple Rain came out, I was approaching my 11th birthday. I wasn't allowed to go see it, but I did have the album. I also saw the videos, though I'm not sure how, as I don't think we had a TV yet. 40 years have somehow gone by since I didn't see Purple Rain, so I went to an anniversary screening in Brooklyn Bridge Park. I found myself both moved and troubled by the experience. The crowd was amazing. From the opening number of the film, almost everyone was up on their feet, ready to go crazy. About half the crowd could not resist doing the bird, even as they remained seated on their blankets. Lighters and cell phones were raised during Purple Rain. And when Prince hit Apollonia in the face so hard she spun and fell into a dresser, the crowd made an audible sound of disapproval. The violence was what I was not prepared for. Having spent my youth in a kind of complicated double bind of being both a feminist and a fan of Prince's music, I was familiar with the confusion of all the objectifying images of women coupled with sex-positive grooves. When I was 11, all the women dressed in lingerie made me very uncomfortable. But I also recognized that they were up on stage, playing music with the boys, and that certainly didn't happen every day. Prince sang about women who were powerful and sexy. Darling Nikki was super weird to me as an 11-year-old girl, but I still recognized that Nikki has all the power in that situation, and I couldn't help but be impressed by that. Also, side note, the simple acknowledgement that a woman masturbated was big then. Also, second side note, apparently Tipper Gore stumbling upon her 11-year-old daughter listening to Darling Nikki is what kicked off her whole campaign to rate music. Based on the record, I imagined the film was a journey through a world of sex. I suppose I knew there was some violence in it based on the music videos, but I did not know that Prince himself would be a perpetrator. I found it hard to accept. I really did not want to see Prince this way, and I found it all the more troubling that he chose this story for himself. While he didn't write the film, he apparently wrote the outline, and a lot of summaries of it describe it as semi-autobiographical. It's bad enough that John Lennon self-reported beating women in his music. Now I have to watch Prince do it? More than once? What am I supposed to do with a musical genius who shows himself demeaning and beating women? Normally, I'd just drop him, genius or no. This is Prince. And part of the difficulty in watching this film is that I am seeing it through my 10-year-old eyes as well as my 50-year-old ones. It's a double viewing. And the 50-year-old version of me wants to make sure the 10-year-old girl in me knows that even a genius like Prince isn't worth that kind of abuse. Prince is redeemed in this film. Apollonia throws her lot in with an abuser. It's not a happy ending for her, as far as I'm concerned. None of it seems to align with what I knew about Prince's later years, though. He was well known to be very helpful to women in the music business. He wrote extraordinary songs for them, provided advice and support. I think about his mentorship of and collaborations with Janelle Monáe. And I find it hard to reconcile that with the Prince I saw in Purple Rain. Watching someone I admire behaving abominably, even in fiction, even in a 40-year-old film, is more challenging than I expected, given how often I've had to do it over the years. I had to wonder why he felt like he wanted to tell this story of misogyny, because that is really what the story is. It's about how misogyny and violence get handed down from father to son in a world of misogyny. It's a world where women are not only treated like garbage, but are literally picked up and thrown in a dumpster when they cease being useful to a man. It is hard to watch every woman being relentlessly treated like garbage and then get a nice break from it with some extraordinary music and showmanship. I did some reading about this film, hoping to find some context that would help me through it. And certainly there is a movement to retract some of its prestige due to extreme misogyny. And this made me feel somewhat vindicated for my feelings. And then I read something that made me expand my thinking about it a bit. It pointed out that the movie was groundbreaking in giving space for a man, particularly a black man, to acknowledge and begin to heal from misogyny. I mean, it really does confront it, no question. Prince is not likable in this movie. He's amazing, and his musical performances are glorious. But his character is a moody, petulant asshole. It is brave to do that, I acknowledge. And maybe he hoped that making a movie about violence against women from a man's perspective might make a dent in it. It's certainly something men need to address. The problem is, for me, both the 10 and 50-year-old versions of myself are watching it through a woman's eyes. So, for me, it feels like it's me getting hit in the face, getting beat up, being compelled to shake my ass in skimpy clothing to have a music career, getting thrown in a dumpster. Story-wise, Apollonia is the protagonist. She's the stranger who comes to town and falls for the local rock star. We identify with her, especially if we're women as well. Especially if we're women who want to be on stage or to sing. It seems like it's a woman's story because of all this, but generally, a woman's story where she returns to the man who abused her isn't a good story. That story is a tragedy, eventually. That story is hard to celebrate, even if it ends with some of the best music of 1984. I watched a video of Kevin Smith's story about working with Prince on some documentary footage. And at one point he says, "Don't talk to me like I'm Apollonia." And I was intrigued. Here we have an accomplished filmmaker being treated by Prince like a woman, and he sure didn't like it. He doesn't say, "Don't treat me like I'm stupid." He says, "Don't talk to me like I'm Apollonia." I can't stop thinking about this because no one should be treated the way Apollonia is treated in Purple Rain. No one would like it. I also learned from this video that Prince had become a Jehovah's Witness, and that his religious perspective was very much in the God is above man and man is above woman vein. And after watching Purple Rain, I believe it. I wouldn't have before because I was focused on how he'd been helpful to women, but Well, here I am again, reconciling some great art with backwards patriarchal madness. Again. It's always the game, I guess. One day I hope to play a different one. But meanwhile, I had such a great night seeing this film. I met up with some Gen X women I'd never met before, and before the film, we danced in the plaza in the waterfront park, then went and sat in the grass in front of a big inflatable screen. This was an audience who knew this film. My companions had seen it many, many times before. It was a community experience that I will treasure. I just had some feelings about it that are still giving me some trouble. I'll be honest. The Purple Rain I imagined for all these years was a better movie. And I'm really glad I didn't see it in my youth. So after this post, I learned that several of my friends had also never seen Purple Rain, and also their parents would not permit them to go and see it. And I just want to give a shout out to our parents, because that was the right move. I feel like parents of Gen X often get a bad rap. They'll be like, oh, they were feral children. Their parents weren't parenting. But you totally were, parents of our parents. Thank you for not letting us go see Purple Rain. That was 100% a really good move. I know there were parents who did let their kids go see Purple Rain, because I definitely had kids in my class who had seen it and I was jealous of. But I just want to give a shout out to you, my parents, my friends' parents. You did such a good job, and I'm proud of you. Because I'm sure it was not easy. I'm sure we begged really hard. We all really were into the album, and I'm sure we were desperate to see the movie, and I really appreciate that you did not let us. Going back in time to thank you for that one. Good move. Yes, I think kids who were a few years older than us, so everyone I heard from was basically my age, so we were, 10, 11, and I think kids who were just like a few years older than us had to see it, and I hope you guys are okay. Yeah. Anyway, the music is great. Here's how I recommend you watch this film if you feel like you want to. Just don't watch the story. Like, you can watch all the musical numbers are amazing. Like, it's just like better as a concert film, I think. You could just skip this story. Just fast forward through it, and then every time you see Prince about to get on stage, or even The Time, for example, you could watch that also. Enjoy the tunes. That part is delightful. It actually really made me, I asked one of the women who I saw it with, and I was like, is there like a concert film or something that I could watch instead of this? I didn't say instead of this. She loves it, so I didn't want to be like, oh, this movie was wow. But anyway, she was like, yeah, absolutely. Sign of the Times is fantastic. And I was like, well, let's get that one here in Brooklyn Bridge Park. That's the movie I want to watch. Just a concert film, please. No more. I don't want to see the domestic violence. Thanks. But I also learned so much about sort of Prince's journey. I think back before the internet, we didn't really know that much about the people that we were fans of, right? We didn't have to know the intimate details of their lives. But I learned this whole Jehovah's Witness era was really it came later in his life, and he literally went and knocked on doors like the Jehovah's Witnesses who come to your door. He was one of those for a while, which I find fascinating. And apparently there was a whole difficulty between him and Wendy and Lisa, who are featured in Purple Rain. Where he was like, no, you can't tour with me because you're gay, and I don't believe that's right, or whatever. Anyway, but he came back around eventually, they said, and worked it out. And I don't know whether he was no longer a Jehovah's Witness at that point, or whether he just sort of realized that maybe it was crappy to be jerks to your former collaborators. I don't know. In any case, there's like a whole like trajectory that he seems to have gone through, which is fascinating. Anyway, opportunity to learn things. And still the music is great. I mean, what can you do? And R.I.P. So, what song am I going to give you? Well, of course, you already know. I expect. I expect you can guess. It's Purple Rain. Had to be Purple Rain. But what's wild is I did not realize how many people have covered Purple Rain. Like, I have on my playlist where I like keep the songs that I'm thinking about covering for this podcast. I have a cover by Etta James, Dolly Parton, Dwight Yoakam, Martin Sexton, and there's one other I can't even remember. There's so many. It's wild, and they're all really interesting to listen to. So, if you want to go on an interesting journey, listen to some covers of Purple Rain. So I'm going to play that for you shortly on ukulele because I felt that Prince, being the guitar genius that he was, I couldn't even pretend to play guitar on this song. I was like, I'm just going to play ukulele. I'll feel happier about it. So I'm going to play that for you in just a moment. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, please tell someone about it. Like, review, subscribe in whatever podcast app you're in. It's always a delight to like go to a new one and be like, oh, wow, I got a nice rating here. That's pleasant. And I'm very grateful for it. So yes, do that. And if you would like to support this podcast with some money, that would be amazing. Patreon.com/Emily R. Davis is a hot spot. There's also Ko-fi, there's PayPal. You can join Substack as a paid subscriber. And that is currently the extent of it. But if you know of another way that you like to support artists, please let me know about it. I will sign up. I'll go anywhere where there is support to be given. And mostly I thank you for listening. It is really, it means a lot to have your ears on this adventure. So here, I shall give you now Purple Rain, right? I mean, this moment, like I was like weeping in the show during the movie because everybody's like, they're just like waving their cell phones. Somebody opened their lighter and like burned themselves trying to like wave along to Purple Rain. It's just, it was a nice moment. So this song is going to start with a little bit of quiet, which is mostly me waiting for a truck to pass. But I sort of like it as a palate cleanser here at the top. So I give you Purple Rain. I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. I only want one time to see you laughing. I only want to see you laughing in the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. I only want to see you bathing in the purple rain. I never wanted to be a weekend lover. I only wanted to be some kind of friend. could never steal you from another. It's such a shame our friendship had to end. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. I only want to see you underneath the purple rain. Honey, I know times are changing. It's time we all reach out for something new. And that means you too. You say you want a leader, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better close it. Let me guide you to the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. I only want to see you in the purple rain.